Hello everyone, welcome back to today's video. This is Ultimatum Season 3, Episode 4. Ghosted is the title. Let's see what happens.
When I went out today, the first second I left the apartment, I ran into my ex at Starbucks. He's still really upset about last night and that JR and I chose each other. I was brought here by Nick. He now can't handle the emotions that comes from this. I've just never seen this side of him.
I like seeing her in this mode. Like, it's kind of nice. She seems, I don't know what to say, just like more down to earth maybe, because she does have a little bit of like F-girl energy, which means there's a little bit of always like a facade happening. I don't know what words to use. This feels much more grounded, which I really like seeing her in. And it's understandable that from her perspective, it's what they signed up for. Also understandable from Nick's perspective that he was hoping they signed up for something a little different. Though I will say, given how Nick and Vanessa have connected, kind of strange the way he's acting around Sandy and JR, because JR and Sandy just kissed and they don't seem as emotionally connected to me, but more physical. But funny enough, Nick and Vanessa seem much more emotionally connected than physical. So really, I feel like that's more of a quote threat to the relationship. Maybe I put more emphasis on the emotional connection than the physical connection, because like physical connection so casual, but emotional connection, like that's not as casual. Really, Sandy should be upset that Nick's getting so emotionally connected to Vanessa, really. But maybe Nick feels like JR and Sandy are getting emotionally connected because they said they were, even though in my opinion, they are not.
He thinks that we're just here to like fuck around. Like we're literally not. He just has that in his head because he doesn't know. He hasn't been able to sit down and talk to you even. He asked me if we like have kissed and I said, yeah. I wasn't planning on bringing that up to him because it's like, there's no point in like adding fuel to the fire right now. But when he straight up asked me, I think it would be worse if I said no and then went back later and said, yeah, we did. Like, I don't want to do that.
100%, like 100% better for her to be upfront and not lie. Also interesting that Nick inquired. So Nick was looking for that validation or a reassurance or something. But also I wonder if that's also so he can get permission to kiss Vanessa. Did he think he was going to be with Vanessa for 3 weeks and not kiss her?
So it's going to be a little awkward now for sure. That's going to like just cause it's going to cause a storm.
Yeah, I don't know what to do. And we were fighting a lot leading up to this. Like just in general, there was so much that I wanted to really unpack with him in our relationship, but he would not give me the time of day to even do that.
Interesting, because Nick said the one thing he wants is for them to stop fighting. But interesting to hear her perspective, because right now Nick has this sort of reputation of being the one who's in it and being the emotionally available one. But let's see if that's actually true and Sandy's actually getting the short end of the stick. Maybe Sandy's not an F-girl alone. Maybe she's just not feeling as reassured by Nick as Nick is feeling sure of Sandy or sure that he wants to get married. Who knows? Because right now we're just getting some sides of the story. We're not getting the full picture. And I do think meeting family and friends will help solidify what's really going on in terms of dynamics. Kind of like we saw in Love is Blind with whatever that girl's name that I can't even remember now. When we met her brother, Hannah, her brother shed some light on Hannah's personality, which made it easier to digest with Nikki D. Yes, okay, Love is Blind. I remember now. Yes, yes.
To me, it's like borderline harassment because it's like you're calling me like 100 times and I answer the phone and we're talking for like 2 seconds and you blow up and you hang up. And then
Nick is calling her? She's saying Nick is calling her 100 times during this experiment? That is very inappropriate.
Don't answer and you're calling me. And so I answer and then it's like you hang up. He's just really emotional and I get it. But I'm like, you need to take a step back and like cool down.
Ooh, Nick is... the way Nick presented himself, girl, the way I wish I could go back in time just to be like, you're gonna be right, girl. The way he presents himself, and then you hear Sandy's perspective and you realize like, Nick you're so inappropriate. Are you really calling her 100 times and hanging? It's not funny, it isn't. He's older. You would assume he was more mature, and he's painting Sandy like she just wants to party. But sir, why you leave? If you're calling Sandy 100 times and hanging up and doing all these things, then you might as well leave. Is he leading Vanessa on? You better not be mean to my little autistic, okay? You better not be mean to her.
It's not fair to you, right? Because you're trying to go through this and take it serious. I could be the same way. Like, oh, Zaina's with Scotty. Like, Scotty to me was like one of the top options. Like, I could be like super jealous, and she asked me that. Like, how do you feel with me being with an attractive guy right now? I was like, honestly, I'm okay with it.
Because it's like, we knew what we were signing up for.
How would he react if you just like didn't respond to him?
That's kind of what I'm doing, but he just keeps going.
I am shook. I am so shocked. I don't know why. You guys warned me that the men in this season were unhinged, but that I am kind of shocked that he is basically harassing her right now. Like, where's the boundary? Versus a Micah and a Chanel who looks like it was reciprocated. It looks like, I don't know yet.
Today.
Vanessa? What the f going on?
I just come home from the mall and Micah's not here. His stuff was gone and the book he lent me was gone, so...
This season. This season.
I'm confused as to why he left and didn't say a word.
I came back to the apartment and I'm alone.
Oh man, this season.
Vanessa packed up her things and left.
Oh, she left. I'm shook. I'm literally shook. I'm not even exaggerating. I did not see that coming already. I'm shook.
There was no goodbye.
Earlier in the day, Dave, Vanessa, Micah, and Chanel secretly met off camera. Oh my God, it's so good. Okay, I love this show. Okay, early in the day. Okay, Dave, Vanessa, Micah, and Chanel. Okay, so Dave and Vanessa, Micah, and Chanel secretly met off camera. Oh my God. That evening, surveillance cameras captured them packing. Oh my God.
I had a really great connection with Vanessa.
Not so great enough that you didn't call Sandy 100 times, girl. Please.
I think I tapped into something that she's been wanting to feel in her relationship with Dave. I really wanted to build on that. I did. And this entire experience is provided for us to be in difficult situations. It's challenging. Dave, he may have been threatened, I don't know. But Vanessa got her stuff out and she's gone.
Girl. Dave, Vanessa, Micah, and Chanel quickly departed. Oh my God, I love a story. Abruptly ending their experience. Whoa. Okay.
Now I'm alone, which is the exact opposite of what this experience is supposed to do.
You can hang out with your telephone since you love to use it so much.
No one here is supposed to be alone.
Okay, well.
For it to only be 3 days into
I really liked Mariah.
the trial marriage, it didn't feel like there was really any real effort to apply himself.
I'm just the kind of person where, like, if I've invested this much, then I definitely want to see things through. And so
I very much am interested in this experience, and now there's nobody there, and it's like
Oh my God, are they gonna have to pair up the loners together? Like, see, didn't I say this? Like, sometimes this does happen. Oh my gosh.
really need to lean on myself.
Wait, the cast was informed that Nick and Mariah are now alone in their experience. Okay, so everybody knows now.
I feel bad for Mariah that Micah left. Knowing Mariah and how she handles being alone, and then you add on that she may see Aria and I out and we're laughing, that could create a list of issues.
Wait, if Mariah stays single and stays at the apartment, can she stay? Do they still pay her? Because talk about a vacation, even though it doesn't count, because I know the person she wanted to marry is now with somebody else, so she can't exactly relax, but okay.
I'm pissed that Vanessa left Nick alone.
Yeah.
I lost a lot of respect for her. It really fucked up the group dynamic. It impacts everybody here.
Ooh, that's interesting. So instead of seeing it as Vanessa chose Dave, the person she came with, Sandy saw it as her abandoning Nick, which is, I fear that she's thinking about her partner, Nick, or ex, I guess. But also interesting that they're not considering that the couple's left because they realize they love each other more than anything. And they're the ones willing to actually do it versus these people. You know what I mean?
We're all connected. So if one person leaves, it has like a ripple effect, let alone 4 people leaving. I'm in another trial marriage and he's by himself and we're not even supposed to be talking. It was just like a recipe for disaster.
How have you been?
Well, surprised,
Right?
taken off guard, sad, a lot of things.
Yeah. I got home from the mall and everything was gone. So I was confused. I was calling Micah. I remember I asked him for dish soap and I was like, hey, should I get it? Should you? And just
Yeah.
nothing. And then,
Damn.
There was no warning signs.
no, I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I don't think anything happened with you.
But it almost felt kind of like a divorce. Like what would happen if someone packed their stuff and left?
Yep. I feel abandoned.
I really like Vanessa. Yeah.
Me too. I thought she was wonderful. He had such a vibe. Just don't understand people as much as I think I do. Dave was really challenged in this, and she gave him the ultimatum.
And I felt like he was the reason she left.
Well, I mean, that would make sense that would be the reason she left, right? Because why else? What's a better reason to leave than to go home with the person you came with, right?
I was very sure that Dave was going to want to propose to her.
Same.
I thought he
Like,
was getting to that point.
I mean, obviously the other people have been informed. Other people have left. Sandy, who I love, is connecting with somebody else. And I feel like the woman that I met, who I felt a kinship with, to like support me and have my back, also left. This really me up.
He's very, I'm not sure if it's the editing, but I'm sad. It's all about me. I'm up. I'm blah, blah, blah. I don't know if it's just the way that it's edited, but Nick is such an artist type. You know what I mean? Like, he's definitely that trope.
Fucked up too?
I don't see that.
No, I am.
Oh my God, I don't see that. Are you even, are you ever a mess? Leave Mariah alone. I love Mariah. She obviously has some growing to do. She's like in her early 20s, with 24, I think. But Nick is like 40, right? Or nearing 40. So it's just kind of interesting to see him being such a big baby about it. And Mariah is just trying to be like very stoic, but she's obviously a mess. Like, she's just internalizing it differently.
You ever a mess?
Yeah, for sure. I've gotten to low points of me just simply not feeling like I'm worth anything.
Just because like Mariah doesn't extrovertedly show it doesn't mean she's not experiencing something.
My mom, I haven't actually spoken to her since I was 8.
Whoa.
And so
I thought she went to go live with her dad when she was 8, but I didn't realize she hasn't talked to her mom since she was 8.
I just like kept feeling that in my relationships and like feel that for me or tell me that I'm lovable. With Caleb, I was very emotionally needy, I feel like, wanting to like feel committed to versus me having that solid feeling within myself and not needing it from him. But I think I really am so driven that I'm okay with going through this experience, and now that it's changed even more so because all the things I wanted to work on still remain the same.
This is an opportunity for me to be with myself.
And that's how I feel.
In an uncomfortable way.
Yeah.
Hopeful that something good will come from this.
Ooh, I wonder if they're going to let them actually experiment with being on their own, because that would be kind of cool to see. You know, that's what we need. We need a reality TV show where like 10 people go meditate in the mountains to find themselves. Will they find themselves or just a bear?
We definitely don't want to be in the same living situation, but we are very willing to support each other through this experience and spend more time together.
Okay,
Thank
roomies?
you.
Roommates.
I gave the ultimatum to Sandy because
I love her. I do want to get married to her, but
Ooh, for the record, if you're new to my content, I think if you need to put an ultimatum down in friendships or in romantic relationships, that's a toxic dynamic. I think ultimatums are always negative and a sign of just in a bad place versus boundaries, totally different. Ultimatums are not the same. Ultimatums are in my opinion, attempt for control versus like a boundary is I have to do this because it's my values. An ultimatum is like an expectation of another person to do something on your behalf that you shouldn't have to put someone in that position, like marry me or else. Like that doesn't make any sense to me. Versus saying, hey, if we're not compatible enough that you feel confident moving forward with me, then I think it's healthy for both of us to break up. That's a boundary. You know, you shouldn't have to hold a gun to someone's head for them to marry you.
Sandy and I both have work to do. I'm hopeful this is all for a reason.
Was there ever a point that you feel like you had doubts about the idea that we could be compatible in a trial marriage?
Yes. I have doubts right now, and I'm in it. JK.
Well, tell me how you really feel.
JK. Anything that surprised you?
It's definitely different for me just because I feel like I'm not used to living with someone, and you have a lot more experience doing that.
Right. I keep forgetting that him and Arya were long distance, southern to northern California.
I'm actually really surprised by how easy it is. Not like easy, but this like level of comfort with each other to just be ourselves. I didn't realize how seamless the transition would be, especially just living with someone completely new. I love being together. I like togetherness. It's fun. It's easy, like surprisingly easy. I mean, I think it is possible to fall in love with two people at the same time.
For sure.
Like anything is possible.
It's funny when people talk about falling in love with people at the same time, like, hello, polyamory. Like, yeah, it happens. You can fall in love with two people at the same time for sure. Ooh, and I just want to say, you know, polyamorous people settle for people the way monogamous people do too. Just because you're polyamorous doesn't mean you're in better relationships than monogamous people. Like, polyamorous people settle all the time for their partners the same way monogamous people do. And if you're polyamorous, you do not need to settle as much as monogamous people do not need to settle. Regardless of your relationship dynamic, you do not need to settle.
You have like this like calmness to you that I really appreciate. The thing that's like really mature of you is that you can tell that you're secure in yourself.
That was my concern with my ex, is like, do you really know yourself? Do you really know what you want? My ex uses the term blind faith a lot.
What does that mean?
Oh.
She can't put any reasoning behind why she feels like I'm the one for her. She just feels it.
Interesting. I have a theory about this, that when people say like, oh, like, why do you love me, or why am I perfect for you? I think it actually is really hard to verbalize it, but I think you can come away with like a basic, we have shared values, we're heading in the same direction, we communicate really well, I'm very happy with you, I feel safe with you, your morals are great, we share similar ethics. You can make a list of all really good reasons, but the truth is there's an element to that that's also beyond the resume, the logic. There's just a knowing. They say you'll know when you meet them. I do think I've experienced that where I'm like, oh, like you kind of know, but you're like, what is this? And then the logic is actually backed. So usually what happens is people feel high chemistry with people, so they feel like this is the one, but it's not backed by the logic. And I think when it's the one and the one of million, but if for the sake of this conversation, the one, right? When it's the one, it feels that way, and you have the logic to back it up. You have the data. So you have to have the va-va-voom, the chemistry, sexual, physical. Then you have to have the resume compatibility, ethics, values, ways of believing about things you believe about the world, moving forward, goals, all that other stuff. I think people do kind of get this confused a bit. High compatibility means everything. Physical and spiritual, mental, financial. Beliefs are so important. When you believe about people, when you believe about the world, they can be different, but they have to be similar enough to share core values. Even having a value of like harm reduction, which is a value my partner and I share to an extent. We express it in different ways maybe, but we are people who generally try to harm reduce. That's not a partnership I've ever had with anyone. Like, I've never dated somebody before who shared that value with me. So I never really had partners, and I've lived with 3 of my partners now. I've never really had a partner that actively, out of their own belief system, actually tried to harm reduce. I only had people out of pride or vanity or sort of ego attempt to be the person in the room who, quote, did the right thing, which I learned, as I grew up, is very different than somebody who actually, it comes from their heart. It comes from their consciousness. And I think that's what you learn when you're young, is how to figure out the people who do it for others and people who do it for themselves. And for me, I value it much more when you do it from your own values, yourself. And I think that's what's missing with people. But this idea of blind faith, like, I don't believe in blind faith. I'm not a religious person. I try to pay attention to exactly what I believe versus what I know, which are 2 very distinct things. A lot of the world runs on faith. I run on the hope that the data and the probability of life moves in my favor because the data says it will. Like, statistically, people do stop at a red light. So I have faith that they will stop at a red light, but I also have the data to show that they will. So it's less likely that they won't, though we can always make room for those exceptions, right? But a majority of people stop at red lights. So it's a mixture of having the right amount of belief in people mixed in with the data for probability. There's no reason to think that people aren't going to stop at a red light, but at the same time, we look for it. Same thing with anything else. It doesn't make sense to live your life like you're always going to get mugged, but you might be the person in that statistical probability where you are mugged. So it's kind of the same thing with romance. There's no reason to go into a toxic relationship thinking you'll be the exception where I can save her, I can save him, I can save them. There's no reason to think you're going to be the one when statistically those relationships don't work, right? So this probability for divorce and the ideas around divorce go down when you are in healthier places in life. So if you have shared values, if you're educated, like there's so many reasons why divorce happens. And I think it's happening with a bunch of unhealthy people that aren't picking partners because they're truly the one, in quotations here, but because they settle. Every person I know that's ever gotten a divorce had some inkling or knowledge that this wasn't their person, but decided to try it anyways. Every relationship I've ever been in with, every partner I've moved in with, other than the one I married, I knew, some part of me knew this wasn't my person, but I kept thinking maybe we can make it work. And I think when we're honest with ourselves, and I know hindsight is 20/20, when we look back at our life, I think we can say that about a lot about our life. But now with the wisdom we have now, hopefully we make better decisions for the future. And I'm sure, you know, in 20 years, I'll be like, I should have done that in my 30s, or I should have done that in my 40s. But that's why hindsight is 20/20. But that's why we learn, you know, to the best of our ability. Not so we never make mistakes, but just so we make less of them.
I don't like blind faith.
It sounds super scary to me.
Yeah.
I'm like, blind anything.
Yeah. I like to see something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
to see
Yeah, but I
something.
think after this that you'll have your answer, to be honest.
Yeah,
I
especially
think the
after that
both of
dating
us
pool.
will.
I just worried Mariah was left alone throughout this because Micah left. I did want to ask, when did your parents separate?
I was a freshman in college.
Whoa.
Yeah, my mom just nonchalantly said it. I was like asking her questions for FAFSA, and she was like, oh yeah, and your dad and I are separating.
Damn.
And I was like, oh, you're just gonna say that? Like, you're not gonna act?
Wow. You know, there's, I haven't read it, but a book always gets recommended. I really got to read it. It's like Kids of Adult Divorced Parents or something like that. I always think about those kinds of situations. Like, it would be so hard if my parents got a divorce. Like, I'd be like, oh, like, though I could radically accept it, it would be very foreign to my sense of reality. And though it's probable, it's just so improbable. The chances of my parents getting a divorce feels like the chances that a meteor crashes into your house and kills you. It feels like so crazy. Like, it just doesn't even make sense to my brain because, you know, what are the chances? But I mean, they're out there, right? There is a chance. It just feels, there's always a chance, but it just feels, even saying that, I don't believe it though. When I say like there's a chance they could get divorced, I don't actually believe that because I know their relationship, and same with my bestie's parents. Like, the chances of them getting divorced, like it would be, I mean, it's always possible, I guess, but it just doesn't make any sense, like, in a big way. And by divorce, I don't mean like legally for some reason. I mean, literally, like, we're separating. That'd be so weird, right? So to hear that in college, to be college age and to hear your parents are separating, that's a pretty big deal.
Like,
All
this
right,
is
honey,
a
have a
big,
good day at school.
Yeah, kind of thing like that. But I think it was because she didn't want to like dig deeper into it.
Yeah.
There was a time where they had an open relationship.
Oh,
and then
wow.
I was growing up, and I used to see other women.
I mean,
ooh, I'm not sure if her parents were doing an ethical open relationship, because if you're not doing an ethical one, that's pretty bad. Hopefully it was an ethical open relationship. You know what I mean?
I will say for myself, no open relationship for me.
No, I would never do it. I would never do it.
Witnessing the dating pool, I was like,
what is this, like Sister Wives or something?
yeah, like, who am I, Akon?
Yeah.
Like, dude has like 9 wives.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Do you think that plays into any fears?
Mm-hmm. I think that it goes back to not trusting men.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like with you, it brings like a refreshing feeling. Like, you're like, oh wow, there are like nice guys out there.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
That's a compliment.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you sharing that because
I feel like a part of, I have to bring my queer politics into this. Sorry. I do feel like the reason you deconstruct gender, excuse me, oh my God, hold on. I do think the reason it's important to deconstruct gender is because it also stifles trauma. Just a reminder, and I know a lot of people are traumatized. I know I have like 70% women who watch me. Just a reminder that men aren't inherently anything. They're simply creatures on a planet experience. They're having their biological experience. And I do not personally believe that men are inherently violent or inherently bad or inherently misogynistic or inherently anything. Like, I do not think they're born that way. I think they're more formed that way. And I think all human beings have a all human beings must be formed, and we must be ever changing, and we must be ever growing. So if you say something like, I never trusted a man and there is a nice man out there, that's trauma you need to deconstruct, because it's illogical. It is on some level illogical to think men are born bad, but it is reasonable to think that men are formed bad. And so it does make sense for you to be weary of men formed by patriarchy, but it is something you can deconstruct to remember that boys aren't born bad. Your sons aren't inherently bad. Your baby children aren't bad. They're formed by society and your parenting. You're parenting. It's like we want to blame society, but like you're bad parents and you've been bad parents as much as you're trying your best because you weren't focusing on the misogyny that was in your culture enough to deconstruct it with your children as you were raising them. And don't come for me in the comments because girls, you know I'm right. You can blame your kids all you want, but they were raised by you. And you did not sit down with them the way you should have to deconstruct gender, because I certainly don't know very many people who got that lesson growing up. So if you're going to become a parent, you better be ready for it.
You know, I just want everyone to be able to show up as they are. It's like at the base of all relationships, it's a friendship.
Kind of matching.
Oh, yeah.
I like it.
We're too hot together. They ain't ready for us. Let's start a game. Yo, we got to bet on something.
Okay. If I win, make me dinner.
If you win, but you're not, I'll make you whatever you want.
What if you win?
If I win, you have to wear one of my shirts to bed.
Ooh.
Nothing else, just my shirt.
Okay.
I better win.
That could be a little too far, a little too not far. It could be funny. Nothing but his shirt. Kind of like a step towards major intimacy here. If it was his shirt plus boxers, then I'd be like, whatever, that's cute. His shirt, nothing else. They're going to have to negotiate that, you know?
Sandy is unique in that she challenges me in ways that others haven't. And our conversations are always motivating because it's causing me to get out of my bubble. I feel happy that Sandy didn't want to leave because of Nick. Was by herself.
Which is kind of crazy, which is very telling to some extent, because I know they want to stay for the experiment and make it happen, but also very interesting that she didn't leave to go be with Nick.
Even though he's been calling her, reaching out to her, texting her nonstop.
Crazy.
I do have a lot of respect for Sandy for just always showing up.
The fact that Nick keeps messaging her and not realizing like, this is it, your relationship's over. The fact that Sandy is like, I'm not answering the love of my life's call. He's not the love of my life. Like, the proof is in the pudding. Do you know what I'm saying? This is what I think is so interesting about this experiment is it's supposed to give you an opportunity to realize that you might want something else. But I think at this point, how have they not all realized it?
There might be something good at the end of this tunnel.
When you think about having a family and raising kids, like, has the thought of going back to the East Coast ever crossed your mind?
No. Yes, I love my family, but there's just something about the West Coast, like the life I've built over the past 10 years, where I just feel like this is home for me.
But I do feel like I'm based in LA, and the proximity to family is definitely important.
This is hard when you're from different coasts. I will say, man, I do miss the West Coast. Even being in Croatia, I do miss the West Coast. Every time I think about going back to America, I don't even entertain the idea of living in the East Coast, which is so fascinating. Like, I don't even think about it. It's not even an option for me. But also, well, obviously, like anything's on the table what's within reason. But my heart isn't the West Coast. But that family element is really what's at play. Love is Blind. I forgot the couple's names, but there was like a San Diego one and a DC one. And they were having that sort of dilemma as well. Whose family do we live next to? How do we make that happen? It's hard. You know, that's why it's so interesting because like, obviously for me, I moved to Europe. My family's not here. It really allows us to just kind of do what makes sense for us. Where do we feel the most free? Where do we feel the most like we're able to grow? Where do we feel like we can afford? Where do we feel like our life is going to be when we're in our elder years? You know, what does our life look like? It's much different. But I can see Scotty's desire to be near his family. But then that poses the question, where does Zaina's family want her to be?
My mom was like so nurturing with my brother and I growing up.
She like asking for you to have kids?
Actually, no. Her primary concern right now is, are you gonna get married? When are you gonna get married? What do you feel like is the ideal age for you to have kids?
As a woman, you're high risk by 35, I believe. So first and foremost, I do want to just take that measure of freezing my eggs. Like, I know this is something I definitely want with someone who wants it just as badly with me. My mom wants me to like wait, you know, really just praying that I find like the right husband that loves me.
The thing that I really want to avoid is just being an older parent.
Our generation is the older parents, and I think our kids are going to be better off for it in some ways. Maybe we'll be more tired, but I think our kids will be better off for it, having older parents. I do. I mean, just think about your parents. Think all the mistakes your parents made, and then remember they were 23 years old, 29 years old. 35 years old. That's what I remember. I remember that all of the mistakes my parents were making, they were making as somebody who was like 4 years older than I am right now. And they had 8, 10 kids. You know what I'm saying? My parents had 10 kids by 40. 10 kids by 40 years old. I am 35 years old and I have 0 kids.
I honestly have never really like thought about vulnerability in that way, or even just like something to want or need.
And I know you're an emotional person.
How you know that? No, the fact that you've been able to point that out and I already know that's something I need to work on, I just feel like it takes the right person and the right space to do that.
I feel like I can be the right person, and I feel like we can find the right space. That's all I'm saying.
I appreciate that.
My ex and I are extremely compatible. I also think you and I are extremely compatible. And so if I don't leave here engaged, and I think that is something like I hate bringing up because I don't even want to acknowledge the possibility that someone thinks that I'm just not good enough for them.
Girl, this is why I don't like Scotty, because you're not high compatibility with Arya. High compatibility would be married. I mean this when I say this. High compatibility would be committed, because high compatibility feels so amazing. You're just like, oh my gosh. And it is logically so amazing. When I say high compatibility, I mean in all ways. The fact that Arya doesn't feel like you're high compatible tells me you're not high compatible. A high compatibility partner will literally be high compatibility with you. They will literally be that. So Scotty describes it as high compatibility, but Arya doesn't. You're not on the same page. You are not high compatible. You just think you are. Because I don't know what measure of compatibility you're using, but obviously it's not working. High compatibility partners don't show up on the ultimatum. What is my high compatibility? I gotta make a graph, bros. High compatibility means like literally in line, on same page, agreeance, reality, beliefs, spirituality, finances, goals, like the way you're going to do life as a team. If you're on a football team and you've got tension between players because they're not on the same page, they're not moving in motion, there's no symbiosis, they're not moving with one another in sync. You would say they're on different pages. They're not in sync. They're not compatible. They're clashing. Business partners. Oh, they're not compatible. We know non-compatibility when it comes to colors on a freaking wall and interior design, but you can't figure it out with relationships. You don't match. It's not working. You're not high compatible.
Or like issue the ultimatum or any of that if I didn't feel like I was ready myself to be a husband.
Being ready to be a husband doesn't mean you're ready to be a husband with somebody who just desperately wants to be a wife. Everyone keeps forgetting, like, marriage, the divorce rate, y'all keep settling and wondering why you're unhappy 40 years into your marriage, 20 years into your marriage, 10 years into your marriage. Stop settling just because you're desperate to be in a relationship. Go meditate until you're not desperate anymore. And then recognize that the high compatibility for you, that partner who's high compatibility, it's not going to be desperation that brings you together. It's going to be life itself. Go live your best life. And on that journey, either run into that person or don't, and accept that you might not meet them in this lifetime. But this idea, like, I don't want you to be in a one-sided relationship. But I guarantee you, if you just get into a relationship with someone who's so desperate to be in one, that's a different version of settling. You can make your decisions.
Did I ask you this? Are you somebody that needs to get the last word? I think Scotty is, for sure. And I hate it.
He seems to be. Scotty definitely seems like the guy who needs to have the last word.
Yeah, I'm the guy who's like just dead quiet. I actually crack up just on the phone when people feel like they need to get the last word, you know, and you'll be like, all right, okay, bye. All right, see ya. It's like, you just said bye twice. Why are you doing that? I'm the guy that says bye once and might not say anything in a fight. At least Scotty is passionate.
I really do want him to feel appreciated by me, and I feel like that's something he's lacking, and I think that can get kind of lost in translation when we are long distance, and I do a lot of things for myself that when he does do things for me and it's like very small, I don't think that I would say I do thank him, but I don't think he feels appreciated.
He shouldn't be counting on you to make him feel like he's doing the right thing.
I have a feeling Scotty's externally motivated, so he doesn't have a sense of self. Even his posture is very like lacking and in a confidence of self. He, you know what I mean? Like, let's go, Scotty. So Scotty's like externally validation seeking versus these people claim to be internally validation seeking people, but I don't know about that yet. I don't know if they've really matured into that person yet, but they might be more inclined to be. Obviously Caleb seems like introverted, so maybe that's a part of it. And
I'm saying this for myself as well. I need to just be sure of myself and what I'm providing. Mariah has the purest love I've ever felt. But I've never experienced something like that. Like, it's borderline like a mother's love for their child. With Mariah, it seems endless. It's so deep. To have that all packed into someone that's only 24 years old and to come where she's come from and to have her childhood and still end up there is like even crazier, because I'm like, okay, it's one thing if you had like loving parents and this is how you love your partner, but to not have that growing up and to only be 24 years old and have such faith in who you are and what you want and the abilities of your relationship, it doesn't feel real. It's honestly scary.
Interesting. So he thinks Mariah being sure of them together is scary because he doesn't even have that as an older. I think he's 29. So he doesn't even have that. And so it's kind of like, oh, instead of thinking she's naive, he's almost intimidated by her, how sure she is.
Something wasn't quite working on an emotional level in a way with our relationship. So
I feel like it is possible for Caleb to find a better connection.
the whole point of why we're here is so that he can get the answers that he needs and to also just get clarity for myself.
Thanks, babe.
Mm-hmm. Oh, what's this?
Shrimp mac and cheese.
Oh.
I wanted to be a special meal for my baby.
Aww.
I don't really cook with Zaina, my ex, but I think it was very sweet that Sandy stepped in and helped me prepare. I wasn't expecting her to, but naturally, it's in her instinct to help. Made it more fun. So it's those qualities that really go a long way in like a real life marriage. Put it together.
Mm-hmm. Oh, are you praying?
Yeah. You wanna pray with me?
Yeah.
Oh.
Really, Lord God.
I mean, he's got that, I think it's a Mother Mary tattoo on him. I never know because it obviously looks like one. She's got a rosary. She's praying. I mean, I would say that's Mother Mary, but who knows? Interesting. So he's religious.
God, thank you for this food. Pray for some nourishment to our bodies. Bless the hands prepared it. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen.
If there's one thing you could go back in time and change, what would it be?
That's a deep question. You want me to give you a deep answer?
Yeah.
I was never a bad kid, but when I was 16, I do feel like I got a little bit rebellious. I got a speeding ticket, and my dad was basically just disciplining me. Realistically, all he was trying to do was teach me a lesson in responsibility. At the time, I just didn't want to hear it. That night, I went to the gym, and he said, "Love you," and I didn't say it back. And the next morning, he passed away. It's definitely something that for several years, it almost traumatized me that that's the way I chose to end our last interactions. And I honestly feel like it was maybe a lesson from God to be you need to take your family serious and you need to really prioritize the people that matter.
Well, I'm not gonna lie, that's really painful. That hurts me. Oh, that's tough. You need some therapy for that. That's tough.
One thing I noticed about you is how much your family means to you. And your father planted a seed inside of you that one day he knew would grow into who you are today. Thanks for sharing that.
Oh, this is crazy.
I got that just for you. And this. Why do I look like a vampire? Shout out to the honeymoon phase.
Interesting. Them two. I don't have much to say about it, but
We had sugar right here. Other side.
Do I feel like my lips feel softer? I don't know.
It looks softer. Oh yeah, I'm loving this. Yeah, a little more over there. Man, you have really soft skin. Do you feel taken care of?
I do.
Seems like you have a lot more face than I do, because I don't remember you taking this long on me. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being you and putting your effort into each of these moments.
I think it's just I'm really starting to kind of
Get a glimpse of it?
yeah, I'm feeling that comfortability. I am definitely attracted to Caleb's mind, his soul, spirit.
I have never felt so comfortable before with someone within such a short amount of time. I know I used the word platonic in the beginning because I feel like that's how I felt, but it definitely changed.
I feel like Caleb and I's relationship is evolving into a deep connection.
okay. And I do want to say, because I was so critical of Caleb in the beginning, that I've also warmed up to Caleb a bit. I think he's just got a uniqueness in his presentation that felt uncanny. But I do think that I've definitely warmed up to him as a consciousness as well. And I do like Arya, so.
I have these handwritten cards.
What are those?
Name a song that best describes you.
That's hard. I don't know. Bossy.
Bossy. What am I getting myself into?
You know.
You are a boss, babe.
You know what
You already know
got
I told
yourself
you.
into.
You know I told you. You gave me CEO vibes.
I know you did say that. Like,
I meant that.
yeah. My first love, my first everything in high school. He was cheating on me the whole time with his ex.
Oh my God.
Wow.
And he
Rip.
actually broke up with his ex for me,
Oh,
which
Lord.
is it's crazy because it's like, you know, if they cheat with you, they'll cheat on you. I don't cheating. You already know that. Like, I've never cheated before.
That's good. That shows that you're ride or die.
Is infidelity or cheating in a marriage a deal breaker? Like, you will get a divorce over that?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Go right to the government office and
Yes,
file for
ma'am.
divorce.
God, you're so cutthroat.
Yes, ma'am.
Like, no, that's a deal breaker.
I don't know. I still think, like, you guys are married. Even if someone does cheat, in my perspective, you kind of have to work through it.
Oh.
That's
Oh, this is a huge values difference. You have got to be on the same page when it comes to this. You have got to. Because if you're willing to stay locked into a marriage through abuse, I think you're going into marriage with the wrong idea of what it is. He has got to stick to his guns here. And I think she's wrong. She said that's, the chat said, or the script says that's what's scary to me about marriage if you're locked in. But like, you're not locked in. You are committing to a life with a person who has shared values with you. Either of you change on those values, it should be a deal breaker considering that, you know, example, okay, you're married to somebody, like I'm married to somebody, we're both, you know, pro LGBTQA rights, right? I'm a queer person. My partner woke up one day and was like, actually, I think like queer people shouldn't have civil rights. It'd be like, I'm sorry, what? Like that would be a huge change in values. Like, how am I supposed to live out as a queer person in a marriage with somebody who doesn't believe in queer values? People do it. Queer women, queer men, queer theys and thems get married to people all the time who do not share core values with them, but I can't do it, right? It's not going to happen. I think JR needs to stand firm in this because I do think people who are willing to make, in my opinion, excuses for cheating or, you know, says like, you have to still stay married to me because that's what marriage is. Like, marriage is, you stay together through cancer. You don't have to stay together through cheating. You can stay together through cheating. I don't see that as a probability. Now, the exception for situations of autistically literal cheating is something like, oh, you have dementia and you cheat on your partner. Like, okay, I'm not really going to count that as cheating, right? Or you are in psychosis and you cheat, right? Like, I'm not going to count that in the same way that I would know your intention wasn't the same. But if you intentionally lie to your partner, deceive them, cheat, go behind their back, have secret text messages, have long-term affairs, like absolutely not. What are we talking about here, right? So he better lock this in.
marriage is you're locked in.
Like, you cheat, it's like Control Alt Delete.
Amen.
That's what I did with my ex.
Do you think
Maybe.
it kind of changed your perspective on things? Like,
Oh, 1,000%.
Yeah.
I mean, look at like every relationship differently. Anybody can be manipulative or sneaky when they want to do what they want to do at the end of the day.
it's horrible, but like you kind of learn.
Learn from it and move on.
Yeah. It's interesting because I see JR in a different light than I think most people because he has this hard shell. He's so strong. He's so masculine. I think he's always been very independent-minded and he gets so cutthroat. But that's him protecting himself. But I think that there is so much hurt from his past marriage. He just needs to let some of his walls down because I like love him.
Oh.
I'm
Because
normally not like that, but
I know.
I want you in my space.
It's cute.
I know we have separate cars, but like drive around
Yeah.
together. Let's go grocery shopping together.
Yeah.
Let's get the most out of this.
Okay.
I feel like we're connected, not just attracted to each other, but through the mind.
They keep saying that. Can I please get some examples? I'm not seeing it. Can I like get some examples, please?
I want to be connected to you, and like the closest way to do that without having is like through a kiss.
I feel like they're still putting on first date vibes with each other. Like they're still, you know, when you kind of like flirt and you're not fully, like I just don't feel like they're really comfortable with each other in the same way. I feel like they're doing their best, but I do feel like they're both still, you know what I mean? And I feel like Arya and Caleb probably feel the most together right now, obviously. But they're being like super cute and like I actually like their energy together a lot. It's like very wholesome. But these two don't quite feel as, they still feel like they're like putting on their best, you know, like your flirt game, or they're not like actually being like vulnerable, authentic. Not that they have to be, by the way. We're just a couple weeks into meeting strangers, so I get it. But kind of interesting. Okay. The question is Nick somewhere watching them with like a binocular right now? Oh. Well, closing the door. It is what it is. You know, who knows how far they took it? Maybe nowhere, maybe somewhere, maybe who knows. Interesting that they're focusing obviously on the two lasting couples, which makes sense. But I do enjoy Arya and Caleb's energy together. I think it's, oh my God, I just said two last couples who are left. I forgot about Zaina and Scotty. I'm so sorry. I've totally put them out of my mind. I know we just saw that really heartfelt moment with Scotty, but I did mentally write Scotty and Zaina off, like as a possibility. Yeah, JR and Sandy, I don't think are going to make it to some like great altar or something. I think it's cool to see Caleb and Arya bonding, and I actually think theirs is the most good for me. I love Mariah, and I wish her the best, and I just think she should date a woman. How great would Mariah be with a woman? I just feel like her vibe is so there. So she should definitely be in a lesbian relationship, I've decided for her. I don't know if she's queer. I don't know if any of these people are queer. It'd be cool to know. But yeah, interested to see what happens next episode. Yeah, this one definitely set a different tone for everybody. Glad the other original couples left. I feel like it probably is best for their relationships. And excited to see if they're covered in the future episodes. Because if not, we'll go look up their social medias to see if they're content creators. Because it'd be interesting to see what ended up happening with them. Maybe they stayed together. Maybe they broke up. No spoilers in the chat if you can hold your tongues for now. But with that said, like the video, share it, leave a comment. Love to hear your thoughts in general. And I'll see you next episode. Bye.
In my head, in real life I'm in bed, my belly's being fed and I'm okay. I'm just fine, yet all I do is whine. Not to you in my mind, cause I know I don't make sense. I've been nothing but blessed, so why's my life a mess? Please tell me, cause I'm sick of thinking. Yeah, I'm sick of reaching out for the truth and living life as a fool. Done.